Fox News alert, a verdict just came down in a case that aimed to keep God off the gridiron, or any sports field for that matter. And it appears that God has won. A group of Texas high school cheerleaders sued after being told that they could not display their Bible verses during football games. And now, after losing initially, we're told, Trace, what is the ruling?
The breaking news headline here, Megan, is the cheerleaders have won again. The judge has now issued another temporary injunction, so that means that these banners will be allowed throughout the entire school year, because the next hearing is not until the middle of June at the end of the school year, and then both sides can come and present more evidence if they so choose, and that's when the decision would be made. Now remember, the banners were the ones the football team would run through at the beginning of the game at Kountze High School, which is about 90 miles outside of Houston, right? They would say things like, if God is with us, who can be against us? Freedom from religion, the atheist group argued, that violated the separation of church and state. But the cheerleaders' attorney argued that cheerleaders have a right to express their religious beliefs. They were doing this totally on their own, not on behalf of the school, and they have the right to do that. And today the judge agreed with them, saying, yes, indeed, the banners will stay. So tomorrow night at the football game, Megan, expect to see the banners back up. Texas Governor Rick Perry, the Attorney General in Texas, also came out in support of this, and today they all appear to be winners. Big victory at Kountze High School. That's significant legally, and we're going to talk about that now. Trace, thank you. Kelly's Court back in session on the docket today, that biblical banner, and how these cheerleaders just won in their right to have it displayed on the sideline. This could have implications beyond this district, folks. Joining me now, Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Cohen and defense attorney and former prosecutor Mark Eiglarsh. All right, Mercedes, let me start with you on this. Explain the ruling.
Essentially, they said there's no issue with the separation of powers. They really focused on the freedom of religion, which is in our First Amendment. It says it very clearly. We have the freedom of religion. So the court decided and said, look, they're expressing their personal religious beliefs. It is not school sanctioned, where the issue of whether there's the Establishment Clause, separation of church and state, it can be triggered, although there's lots of argument that says it doesn't. And because they have this inalienable right under the First Amendment, they won. And it was a great ruling by the judge. But
there was a 2000 Supreme Court case, Mark, that seemed to go directly against them. I mean, how did the court tell us about it, and how the court reconcile it?
I'm blown away, candidly. I absolutely think this is going to be completely short-lived. It is a violation of the Constitution, and my argument is a legal one. This is either government speech or school-sponsored speech. Either way, it's unlawful. And let me say, for those who are now rolling their eyes at me at this legal argument, forget about morally. We're talking about
we're not going to hold that against you.
Make room for the signs that say, praise Allah, and God doesn't exist, go Wildcats.
But that's, well, listen, first of all, Mark, where in the Constitution does it say anything about separation of church and state? Nowhere. But where it does say is freedom of religion.
Supreme Court.
And that's this. I'm talking about if you look at the Constitution, look, it has been interpreted in various ways by the courts. And this is where the court drew the line and said, where does it say this? It doesn't say anywhere in the Constitution. What it talks about, though, if you look at the genesis of the Constitution, the establishment of religion, it's different. The founders had oppressive religion.
Mark,
in
I'm
Britain.
trying to get to the school district, which apparently caved and said, yeah, you can't do it. They argued, look, this Supreme Court decision from 2000 held that a school district's policy of allowing student-led and student-initiated prayer at football games violated the Establishment Clause because it gave the impression of school sponsorship of prayer, and that's what the school used to say, all right, we're caving to this out-of-state atheist group that wants us to stop these banners.
I mean, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. Mercedes is wonderful. She's not only attractive, but she's smart. But her arguments were already made but those arguments were already made in front of the Supreme Court. They said we're interpreting the Constitution to mean X, Y, and Z. And that means you don't offend groups like atheists, Hindus, Muslims. You just keep it off the field because it relates to school.
If it's student-led, Mercedes, then how is it school-sponsored? I mean, that's like the student when the student's just walking down the hall saying a Hail Mary. Is this so different from that? Is that you can't do that?
And that's exactly why the court ruled in favor of the cheerleaders. cheerleaders. I walk around with my cross on my chest. Is that if I'm in school for my children, does that mean somehow I'm violating?
Yes, pretty soon that's going to be banned.
That could be. I mean, this is what's getting to be ridiculous. But it's the freedom of religion. It's in the Constitution. If you look at it as a strict constructionist, there is nothing in the Constitution.
Why is it not the same, Mark? Why do you say that the student walking down the hall saying the Hail Mary is not the same as these students putting up a banner?
Because it's intertwined with school. It gives the impression, and it actually is, supported by the school.
What about the Pledge of Allegiance, Mark?
This is a football game.
What about the Pledge of Allegiance? Don't we say the Pledge of Allegiance when you're in school, one nation under God? What about every time you pay for something? It says, "In God we trust," in every bill that you have in your wallet.
Let me make this clear. Let me make this clear. As this makes its way up the appellate court, it will be reversed.
What's wrong? Would we rather have a society in which the kids can go out with their signs that say, "Allah loves the Tigers,"
right.
and, you know, "No, God loves the Tigers," and the girls with the sign saying, you know, "God loves the Tigers"? Would we rather have that society or the society in which nothing can ever be mentioned, Mercedes?
I think everyone should be able to express their religion as they see fit. These cheerleaders want to express their religious beliefs. God bless them. That's wonderful. The judge agrees, and it's allowed to be done. And I don't agree with you, Mark. I don't think the appellate division is going to overturn this because they're going to look at the First Amendment.
She asked us on a moral level now, not legal, and there's nothing wrong with love, peace, and happiness. I'm all in favor of those messages. However, when you specify a particular religion, that's where you cross the line, and that's what the Supremes have said.
Give me a G. Give me an O. I got to go. I wasn't going to spell God. Thank you, panel.
Thanks, Megan.